Hi Bobcats! In this presentation we're going to look at using graphic organizers to help get ready for the cumulative exams in this course. Why should you make them? Well, I think the biggest answer to that question is that as you're preparing for an exam and you're going through that process of looking at a large body of work in a limited amount of time, and you're going through that process of deciding what's important, what's not as important, you start making connections between things from, say, the first section in the chapter and the last section in the chapter that maybe you hadn't made before. And that process really solidifies that knowledge in your head. So it's a crucial step, an essential step of learning anything. The other big factor for why I push the graphic organizers is that we do cumulative exams in this course. If you're getting ready to take the final exam, how do you start? Where do you go? Taking a look at something like 10 pieces of paper is a much more reasonable task than looking at literally hundreds of pages of textbook, lecture notes, worked problems. So it's a great way to distill down what we need for the course and then to get started in reviewing for one of these cumulative exams. What should you put on your graphic organizers? Well, on the front side, I've just sketched an outline of the big topics in the course, and it's up to you to fill in all of the information. Some of the things I would recommend for summarizing the stuff onto one page. Words are needed and they are very helpful, but often drawings or sketches or diagrams are much more informative, especially if you make the sketch and then you annotate it, pointing out important features, pointing out anything that enhances the meaning of the drawing. You should also put equations. I'll tell you what equations are provided with the test, and any other equation you'll need to memorize. So have all of those equations in one spot. You should ask yourself, what are the most important concepts in calculations? And in addition to the important things, what are the things that surprised you? Is there something that wasn't at all what you thought it should be? Those things are really important to slide in here. And keep in mind that everybody comes in with a different background. In educationalese, we call that prior knowledge. We need to activate your prior knowledge to help you make connections between what you already know and what we are currently learning. Since everybody comes in with different prior knowledge, everybody has to make connections to the new material in their own unique way. So one student's graphic organizer might be very different from another student's graphic organizer. So it doesn't do anybody any good for me to say, oh, everybody must do their graphic organizer like this. What I'm going to be doing is making some suggestions for Chapter 12, and then it's up to you to take it and make it your own. On the back side of the graphic organizer, I ask for vocabulary words and for example problems. When you do the vocabulary words, make them your own. Pick words from the chapter that somehow surprised you. Like we talked in class about the word volatile, that volatile means something that evaporates easily, but in common usage, volatile means explosive, and so that's not the chemistry meaning. So you should define these not by looking them up in a glossary or a dictionary, but by you putting them into your own words. These definitions should be concise and complete. For the problems, you need to have a large variety of problems that show the span of all of the problems that we have done in the course. You may need to write pretty small as you're putting these problems onto one side of the paper that is shared with the vocabulary words. Actually, make sure that the vocabulary words are kind of small because we do a lot more problems than vocabulary words. But keep this in mind. We're working right now on chapter 12. In about 13 weeks, you'll be preparing for the final exam. So what makes a lot of sense right now might not make so much sense in that many weeks down the road. So you probably need to annotate the problems as well with stuff that will help you solve them later down the road. How do you use these graphic organizers once you've made them? You need to take those graphic organizers after you're done with them and work with them every day. Take just a couple minutes, like as we're getting ready to start class, pull your graphic organizers out from previous chapters, and while you're just sitting there waiting for class to start, review front side and back side. You are hitting one of the key pieces from modern learning science, which has to do with repetition, but also reviewing things spaced out in time. So if you're spending a few minutes between now and the final exam, every day, every couple of days, looking at chapter 12, chapter 12 will be cemented in your brain by the time we get ready to take the final. How do you know what's important to put on your graphic organizers? If you go to our Canvas site in the modules, in each chapter, one of the pages that's towards the beginning of the module will be the PowerPoint and objectives. So take a look at those objectives, because those objectives are telling you what is important for this chapter. Also, it lists a bunch of vocabulary words down at the bottom. That might be a good spot to look and ask yourself, do I really know what all of those words mean? If not, they probably should go on your graphic organizer.